Welcome, everyone. This is Character Fight Night Recharged.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of CFN Recharged, the show where your favorite fictional characters battle head-to-head in stipulation-style combat. My name is Josh, and joining me at the desk, as always, is Jim.
What's going on, everybody?
We'd like to give a very warm welcome back to our new favorite person, Carson.
Get out of my swamp.
Oh, God. Shrek, get out of here.
Should we get all the bad Scottish accents out now, or should we just
No, we should just
pepper them?
yeah, throughout the show.
That'll do, donkey.
Unbeknownst to us, you just hit us with it later on. We'd like to welcome everybody back to the CFN Arena. We have another great night of fight for you tonight.
Character fights tonight. We have a great night of character fights.
Night. So I want to talk about the fight a little bit before we jump into the weigh-in here and discuss tonight's stipulation, which is a tornado tag match. Jim, what is a tornado tag match?
It features a tornado, thanks to Carson. No, tornado tag match is kind of a classic take on a classic tag match. It's instead of them tagging each other in and out, they're both going to be kind of just in the ring fighting it out together.
But there is no ring, so they're going to be in the arena.
Yeah, exactly. So
still getting used to that.
It's essentially a fancy way of saying it's a 2v2 match.
Yeah. So, yeah. As always, let's begin tonight with the weigh-in of each competitor. And to do that, we must introduce CFN's very own voice of the almighty, Mr. Metatron Wade Hunt, who is standing by at the weigh station. Let's kick it over to him.
Welcome, everyone, to the weigh-in for tonight's matchup. Stepping up to the scale first, the team of Shrek and Donkey. Shrek and Donkey weighing in at a combined weight of 850 pounds.
Shrek and Donkey, hell of a competitor team. Obviously you've got some pretty obvious things like superhuman strength. You see multiple feats of strength that he is capable of. Shrek, of course, not Donkey so much, but
Donkey's got that donkey strength. Yeah. he's got the kicks.
The donkey kick.
I mean, it's pretty obvious he's got the power of love because
waffles.
He's kind of the champion of that one.
Duloc?
Yeah.
Champion of Duloc?
Yeah, well, I mean,
for Lord Farquaad.
He takes all of those knights out in kind of like a
That's right, yeah.
montage fashion.
Yeah, this is all like for his swamp.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Just to try to, because he's a swamp living ogre.
Yeah.
So it's something to kind of.
He's got the thunder down under, and of course I'm referring to his flatulence. Yes. If it was me, you'd be dead.
Yeah, there's a lot of history behind Shrek's farts, specifically. I have a couple fun facts that I gathered up about Shrek. Actually, I didn't know this. It's actually based off a book from 1990. Like, I honestly didn't know that, and I feel kind of dumb for not knowing.
I assumed it was just DreamWorks coming after Disney. All their big properties.
It was a book by William Steig in 1990 called Shrek. And ironically, Donkey had like a way lesser part in the book. He was actually just like Shrek's mount that he rode around with. And that was it. So they took it and they gave Eddie Murphy the character.
That's interesting, yeah.
So, yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Of course, we know about the movies.
First aired in 2001, spawned 3 other equally fantastic movies.
Plus a couple of spin-offs with Puss in Boots.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
Like his own feature-length film, too. I think that released in theaters and everything.
Apparently the most recent one is pretty good.
Is it really?
Yeah. I've heard good things.
Damn it.
And they got Antonio Banderas, which is.
I gotta go watch that movie now, I guess.
I know Jim watched all 4 Shrek movies in preparation for this. And
What?
And you
No.
didn't watch
Yeah.
Puss in Boots: The Last Wish?
My lord.
One more interesting fact about Shrek. Obviously, he was voiced by Mike Myers, but he was originally cast to Chris Farley, the late great Chris Farley, and according to documents, Chris Farley was about 90% done with the lines when he died,
Oh, geez.
and
Okay.
so they ended up, unfortunately replacing him because they couldn't
Yeah.
have 10% of the movie with like a different voice.
Yeah, interesting.
But-
I wonder which lines it was that was so pivotal. Like at that point, don't you think you just scrap that 10%? You're just like, we got it.
Yeah.
But it might-
Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting.
So yeah, just some
They
fun
knew they
facts.
wanted sequels.
And then Shrek's name is derived from the German word Schreck, spelled SCHRECK, meaning fright or terror.
Shh. And then wreck.
Yes. That made no more sense than what I said. But yes,
After I said it, I don't know why I did, but I said it.
Carson, I do agree with your points, though. Toxic farts. We did see a lot of, dexterity and wrestling, classic wrestling, abilities and stuff like that. And then, I think we'll touch on some other stuff later on in the rounds. You guys got anything else to say about Shrek right now?
Not right now.
History of Shrek.
I think you pretty much got
That's
it.
a wrap on the history of Shrek and Donkey.
Yeah, he was also there that whole time.
Oh yeah, fun fact about Donkey before we move on. He was voiced by Eddie Murphy, but he was Steven Spielberg, I guess, was involved in the project, and his first choice was Steve Martin. But Steve Martin, I guess he ended up changing his mind and giving the part to Eddie Murphy.
Interesting.
I couldn't imagine Steve Martin's voice on that character.
Right?
Now
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
like
it's
become
so iconic. Yeah.
Which I guess is a good choice on his
Yeah.
part. He was modeled after a real donkey named Pericles that lives in Palo Alto, California.
Okay.
So
He's like the one most realistic thing out of the
goofy ass
except, like, the
donkey
talking. Yeah.
from the movie. There's a real life goofy ass donkey
Yeah.
in California.
Probably doesn't talk, but
No, but it probably has buck teeth like that.
yeah.
Cool. So, kind of a little background on Shrek and Donkey. So let's move to the other side and go back to the way station with Mr. Metatron, and let's find out about our next 2 competitors.
And now, stepping up to the scare, Sully and Mike. Sully and Mike weighing in at a combined weight of 824 pounds.
All right, yeah. So we got Sully and Mike up on the weigh station. One, Mr. James P. Sullivan, voiced by John Goodman, and then Mike Wazowski, voiced by Billy Crystal, who also, fun fact, both had different actors who were originally slated to play them. Before he was voiced by John Goodman, their first choice was Bill Murray, who did not respond to the offer, and Mike Wazowski was originally supposed to be voiced by Billy Crystal. So that was, which ended up was the one that worked out. But he did have kind of a redesign, which I think was kind of interesting to find out that he was supposed to be more bowling ball-esque. So, the big one-eyed green, 2-armed, 2-leg monster was originally supposed to not have 2 arms.
Just a walking bowling
Just a
ball.
walking bowling ball with only one hole, I guess. Well, moving right along.
I think volleyballs have 3 holes, but we
They
won't
do.
go
That's
into
what I'm
that.
saying. He's not a true
Don't we
bowling
all?
ball because
Don't we all?
Anyways, so we kind of like for anybody who has seen the movies, we got big monster, little monster, big fluffy, big claws, big loud roars, big very colorful designs designed after Beauty and the Beast for Sully, with some sloth thrown in there, and then like I mentioned, a little green monster designed after a bowling ball.
Which is funny. I'm looking up the ground sloth, which I thought would be like a sloth. Like
It's more like a bear,
It's more like it's like an anteater thing.
like an anteater bear sloth.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. I learned something today.
They're massive, dude. It's insane.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy. If you get a chance, look up ground sloth. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah, it's funny. Like in Ice Age, the movies, I feel like most of the characters are pretty true to like what animals they are.
Yeah.
But Sid the Sloth is like so much not like what actual ground sloths
Absolutely. Yeah.
I guess he's like a tenth of the size.
yeah. He's like tiny. He's
got
upright.
He's got a weirdly flat head with two
eyes,
very
like,
distant
far
eyes. Yeah. Must be the last one of the season.
So originally, he was designed to have tentacles for legs, which I think
They did have.
the guy, the boss, right, has like tentacle
He's
legs.
a spider,
yeah.
but they did have
so
they did have a tentacle-esque.
He's actually
like,
an
person.
arachnid,
Okay, my bad.
not a cephalopod.
What?
And then Mike was actually supposed to be Randall's assistant in an early version of the script instead of Sully's. So
Interesting.
Just kind of shows you how, the screenwriting process.
Randall and Mike Wazowski were actually roommates to start in Monsters University.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were originally slated to be friends, and then there was a whole thing that happened, and that's when they became Randall's mortal enemies.
Maybe that's why they played into that as kind of a nod to the original script.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So now that the weigh-ins have been completed, before we head down to the arena and get this fight started, let's keep you guys waiting a little bit longer with an ad. What's that smell?
Earwax and Waffles!
What?
You heard right, Josh. Introducing Shrek and Donkey's Earwax and Waffles. A swampy yet homey restaurant where all we serve is waffles on tables with earwax candles.
That doesn't sound very...
Hungry for waffles?
Not anymore.
Then come on down and try Shrek and Donkey's Earwax and Waffles, located on Main Street in Duloc.
So Mr. Metatron is now standing by in the middle of the CFN arena, waiting to introduce tonight's fight. Let's not waste any more time and send it down to him. Mr. Metatron, now is your time to shine.
The following contest is a tornado tag team match. Introducing first, from Monstropolis in Disney's Monsters, Inc. universe, they are the team of former top scarer and new Monsters, Inc. CEO, James P. Sullivan, and his life partner, best friend, and roommate, Mike Wazowski. And their opponents, from far, far away in the swamp of the Shrek universe, they are the unlikely team of the hyperactive talking father of donkeys, Donkey, and his partner, the great, green, stupid, ugly ogre and temporary ruler of far, far away, Shrek!
Welcome to round one, where we have a discussion about one of the fighters, or in this case, two fighters. But we're going to start with Shrek and Donkey. So some strengths that I found for Shrek. Talking no good tonight. For Shrek, obviously superhuman strength. He's incredibly strong. He's demonstrated it on multiple occasions. Not only can he uproot like entire trees, where we saw him just kind of rip a tree out of the ground, he's also just kind of crashed through doors like they weren't even there.
Somebody once told me that.
No,
Specifically referencing to him busting through the outhouse door in the first
His
his
entrance.
opening scene.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, of course.
There
And
is
then-
going to be a ton of terrible jokes in this episode.
And then wasn't the first like credit they popped up just like in poo or whatever? Yeah. Okay.
Dude, the first Shrek movie was
Yeah.
really God, it was such a good
Disgusting.
movie.
Oh.
Disgustingly good.
Disgustingly good. Yeah, Carson, you said it just right.
So not only does he have superhuman strength, he's got expert wrestling skills. We talked about the toxic farts. And I want to say, I think like some other fights in the past, I think Donkey's going to be more of a hindrance than a help. I don't know if you guys agree.
I don't know because you talked about being the expert wrestler in that specific scene. He tagged Donkey in, like Donkey was like tag me in, and he tagged Donkey in, and Donkey was actually able to take out a couple of the guards.
And not to get into like Mike Wazowski just yet, but I do feel like if this was a Donkey versus Mike without Shrek and Sully, I would pick Donkey for that.
Yeah.
Crowd's going wild.
That was a special appearance from the CFN dog, my dog Oakley.
Who would kick all their asses?
Oh, absolutely.
So I don't know. I just feel like Donkey's scrappier. So
Yeah. I mean, look at what like the adversity and stuff that Donkey has had to overcome. Like he's definitely
That is true. Yeah.
Been. Mike is college educated. Like, he's got a career in a life, and Donkey was given up by his owner to.
So you're talking like blue collar versus white color?
Exactly.
yeah. Like in a bar brawl.
Yeah.
I would pick the jackass.
Your beer drinkers versus your cider drinkers.
Yeah. Like, Mike would just be like, "Get him, Sully."
Get him.
And Shrek would be like, "No."
So an interesting thing about Donkey, since we're on the topic, is he may not be. I mean, obviously, you make the case that he's a pretty, decent fighter. He can hold his own, but he's also very persuasive. And so I don't know if that will necessarily come into play here. But we do talk about how when you're kind of smack talking or you get caught up in the moment, if he says the right thing at the right time, it could open up an opportunity for him, or it could backfire and it could put him in trouble.
Annoy the hell out of. Oh yeah, what? Sorry, he could annoy the hell out of
everyone,
Mike and Sully, and then they're gonna target him specifically to get him to shut up, Donkey.
Well, I mean, I think he's the superior trash talker of the entire. Like, I feel like he's just having Eddie Murphy's voice.
I don't know, dude. I don't know because imagine Mike Wazowski. Like, do you imagine going back and forth between Mike Wazowski and Donkey and like trash talking?
I don't know. I just hear Mike Wazowski be like, "Hey there, Bucko. Get out of here, buddy.
Hey there, Bucko.
Shut up.
Put that thing back where it came from, or so help me."
Can I do that?
Yeah, sure.
He's like, it's weird.
Yeah.
I'm free.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he has a couple instances, and I'll kind of wrap up. And my 2 cents on this is not only did he convince Shrek, who is very hard-headed and stubborn and very territorial, he's like, "This is my swamp. Everybody leave me alone." He was able to convince Shrek to kind of let him stick around. And not only that, he also convinced the dragon not to eat him and murder him
and to spawn his babies. Yeah,
he seduced the dragon. Let's be clear.
Which is upsetting in so many ways.
And then, of course, you have Shrek, who has he's very fast. You wouldn't think that from
He's
foot.
surprisingly dexterous to watching him and he's smart too. Like, specifically kind of talking about the scene from the first movie when he's running around in the castle and he's also simultaneously getting the chain set up to be able to lock the dragon into place.
Yeah, right.
So he's thinking on the fly as he's running around and swinging like through the rafters, like on chains and stuff like that. Like, surprisingly enough, for an ogre of his size, the man can move.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then talking about his strategy in he came up with that plan to stop the dragon, and he you could say it was luck, but it seems like he calculated exactly how much chain he needed to wrap up to stop the dragon short of exactly where he
I mean, he definitely did because of the way he ran chain around the pillars and everything,
and then slammed that sword right in the middle of
correct
2 of them. So it's Was he just lucky? Was he like, I hope this works, or was he?
I think it was partially that, but the fact that I'm more impressed with the fact that like he actually was able to come up with that plan,
Yeah.
like while in danger and implement the plan immediately and it be successful. Whether it was, I think the luck part of it was where it, Dragon did stop. But the fact that he implemented it and came up with this plan on the fly while in immediate danger.
He was planning on getting far enough away from the dragon to stop it.
Correct.
Regardless.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think that was a great start. A little deeper dig on Shrek and Donkey. And now we're going to kick it over to round 2. So that's going to wrap it up for round 1. Little insight to some strengths and weaknesses of Shrek and Donkey, but that is not going to be all because we still have the matchup coming up, or we'll hear more from Shrek and Donkey. But right now, we're going to jump into round 2 now that we've had a 10-second breather and hear about Sully and Mike. So here we go. I don't know. Sully and Mike seem a little OP together.
I completely disagree with this.
Go on.
I mean, so like Sully, obviously we don't see as like there's not a span of 4 movies that includes Shrek and Sully, or Shrek and Sully. What a team that would be. Sully, Mike and Sully.
Kids,
yeah,
sure.
right. Jesus, Mike and Sully. So we can't see like the extent of their combat and some of their stuff, especially with the second movie kind of more focusing on Mike than anything. But I mean, dude, Sully's huge. He's massive. He's got a massive wingspan. He's 7 feet tall, and his arm span is about that. Yeah. Like he's a knuckle dragger.
He's got those Michael Phelps arms.
Yeah. With double the fur. But I mean, like
Michael Phelps has no fur.
Exactly. Yeah.
Jesus. Got weird.
Yeah, it got a little strange, but I love it. No, I mean he's got huge claws too, and he does do some training, but from other than that.
Well, the biggest feat of strength that I can remember from the movie is when they have that scream machine that sucks
the scream extractor.
Yeah, and he rips it off of it's like a huge thing, and he literally rips it off of its hinges.
And you could see kind of just the scope of how heavy it is because when it comes off of the hinge, you can visibly see, obviously visibly it's a movie, but you can actually see him drop down where you can see the weight of it under, and then before throwing it, he throws it because that's what traps Mr. Water News.
Yeah, he pins him with it.
That was a fit of anger though, right?
That was, yeah. No. That was like the mommy strength.
I'm not trying to downplay it. I'm just trying to say it would take him getting angry to really,
but he doesn't get angry
Hulk
often.
Out, if you will.
Yeah. But like I don't think that is what you're thinking of as like, that's not anger strength. That's him actually just utilizing the strength that he already has.
Yeah. I just think that it kind of represents his upper limit a little bit because he strains to do it, but he gets it done.
Yeah. He can get there.
And I think if he had needed to do more, he probably could have pushed himself to do more, but yeah, I mean, that was as impressive as any individual feat of Shrek's.
And I mean, he also rips the door off of to get to that off of the wall. Whereas before it was clearly an automatic door in some way.
This isn't some dinky outhouse door. This is
no.
a scream facility.
Yeah, this is it's not just a scream. It's the scream. This is the center that powers their entire world, pretty much.
Since we're on the topic of feats of strength for Sully,
of which Mike has none. Oh, sorry.
I'm gonna chime in with mine, which is Randall. Randall is a slithery, dexterous, worm-like creature, right? Mm-hmm. And he was able to fight him off. And
alternatively to that, he got a single punch in because he knew where to hit. Because he was being beat until Mike hit him with the snowball. And that's what.
Yeah, but that one punch was.
And knocked him out.
One punch man.
A one punch monster.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. But no, yes, because I thought about that too. Because I was this is like, we'll kind of talk about it a little bit later, but this was a coworker suggested fight of mine. So it was a fan suggested fight. And I was kind of chatting with them about it a little bit. And we had brought up the fact that fight had happened. And then after analyzing a little bit more, I was like, oh, Sully was getting his butt kicked until that's because Randall can go invisible. So it's like, it's hard not to get beat up by something you can't see until you can see him. But then that one punch immediately just took him out.
But you bring up a good point about teamwork. If Mike hadn't have thrown that snowball,
Teamwork, he says.
Well,
it was a fit of anger that he threw the snowball.
luck can have its advantages,
yes, absolutely,
right?
It
and
can.
So
I
even
agree.
if Mike was angry and he threw it, it was still lucky that it ran.
Mike
to the right
and Sully
spot.
have been friends since college. They went through an entire scare games together in college, and they have been best friends and roommates and coworkers ever since. So they have a bond that's something that Shrek and Donkey do not share.
So they can finish each other's
Sandwiches.
Yes, exactly. And so, but let's not shadow Mike out of this, because I want to give Mike a little bit of light too. Aside from being clumsy, he does have like pretty incredible, like he's able to jump and kind of bound around, which if you're thinking like Randall, obviously doesn't like slither around, but he's able to bounce, between. He's going to be hard to pin down.
I also think he can take a hit. Like most of the first movie is
the
him,
nut shot that he took.
is him just injuring himself for the entertainment of a child. So I think like he's like a tennis ball, which is what he's shaped like. He can bounce back.
And color wise too. Yeah.
Final note before we move on. I think we also failed to mention the fact that Mike and Sully are both proficient in stealth. I don't know if that will necessarily come into play with an open arena.
It's a different kind of dexterity.
Yeah. Scary feet.
Roar.
So, I mean, obviously to sneak into kids' bedrooms and stuff while they're asleep, they have to have a high skill. A high skill in stealth. And so, the only way I could see that coming into play is like when I'll talk about it in the next round. So that's going to end round 2 for Sully and Mike. And it's going to move us right into tonight's main event, tonight's fight, tonight's monster mash.
Womp womp.
Oh, wrong button. There we go. Okay. One of those buttons.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to go into round 3 and we're going to kick that off right now. So now we come to the fight, Jim, Carson. Now we come into how these 4 competitors are going to go after each other. And one thing that I was talking about is kind of left off on round 2. The only way I could see stealth coming into play is if, let's say, Sully has the distraction of both of the fighters and Mike is able to stealth his way around and get kind of the drop on them, or vice versa, right? I don't know that stealth in like an open arena would come into play any other way, unless...
Especially not on a 2v2. Maybe if it was like a 2v1 or something like that, then you could do it. But, I think that stealth kind of translates a little bit into dexterity is kind of the best way to put that. Which both of which they have, but I think Shrek is a little bit more dexterous in this case. So imagine like if this were our kind of, imagine if this was like our classic CFN wrestling ring, like Shrek would be the more technical fighter. He would be bouncing off the ropes. He would be doing a little bit more high flying. He'd be the high flying big powerhouse,
Yeah.
which would be fascinating to see. Shrek would be, Sully would be. The two S-ing is really getting me. Like Shrek and Sully. They're just a good pair. Imagine like that sitcom. Yeah.
It's Shrek and Sully.
Shrek and Sully. And Mike. And he's just like behind like the logo for the like the TV.
Yeah. He doesn't get to be
I was on TV.
Yeah, like the NBC logo. He's like, oh, I was on TV. And just the peacock in front of him. Anyways.
One thing I want to talk about I kind of touched on in the background with Donkey kind of switching sides is luck. We've talked about luck before in the, it doesn't it's not a skill necessarily,
No,
but we've
But
talked
if you
about
got it, you got it.
yeah.
if you got it, you got it.
Rely on it.
One of the things that is canonically in Shrek is that Donkey killed the Wicked Witch of the West by spilling fruit punch on her. Right? So
I forgot about
it could be like, oops. And, but again, like Carson said, if you got it, you got it. So I don't know. I still think that Donkey is more of a liability in a way.
Yeah.
I think that Mike is more of a liability to Sully than Donkey is to Shrek.
Well, I sort of see Mike as maybe being a weapon because like he can take that beating. So imagine
Like Sully throwing Mike
or just holding him by
Cannonballing
the limbs and just
him,
swinging him
yeah.
around like a
mace.
like a bowling ball in a bag.
So
Like,
this is super interesting because Mike is going to be doing almost no fighting on his own accord. Really, like it's mostly going to be. The way that I see this happening in the ring is you have Shrek and Donkey as their own two entities with like the ability to be able to tag in and out, which of course is not a feature here because it's a tornado tag match. And Mike and Sully, Mike is going to be essentially riding on Sully's back, peeking over his shoulder.
kind of a Rocket Raccoon group sort of relationship.
Exactly. Perfect. That's a perfect way to do it. And Shrek is going to, Sully's going to be the one doing most of the brute fighting on here. And then, they're going to kind of specifically target, I imagine Donkey's going to get knocked out of the way. Shrek is probably going to end up being the one that's going to be targeted. And it's going to be pretty brutal, kind of slugfest between the two of them. But Sully has those massive claws that, if he gets around, and we've seen Shrek not take pain like super well. He got shot in the bow with an arrow in it. Like he was.
Yeah, but you didn't notice he got shot until Fiona pointed it out.
Yeah, but then the fight with Puss in Boots, when he fought with Puss in Boots, as soon as he got the claws in him, he
I've only
couldn't do
seen
anything.
one of the 14 movies.
Well, I watched all of them, so
I was like,
let me have it. I sat through.
But no, I deserve this.
No, in all seriousness, no. In the fight with Puss in Boots, though, he wasn't able to take the hits, from the claws. And these are like the little. I mean, granted, cat claws are. If you ever get clawed by a cat,
But I mean,
it's
it's an
Yeah.
arrow too.
But imagine taking a scratch from something like Sully's claws,
yeah,
or headbutt from his big horns.
yeah.
We haven't talked about the horns. Mike also has horns, although they're tiny.
Yeah,
But I'm going to kind of disagree with you a little bit. I think that I could completely see a Donkey Mike slap fight happening on the side
yeah.
while Sully and Shrek are just going at it.
I think it's dangerous to underestimate Donkey. I think to just walk into the ring or walk into the arena and see him and be like, we don't need to worry about him is to your own detriment. So I think if they aren't going to regard him as a serious combatant
threat.
Then he's going to I could see, Sully's clawing into Shrek, but Donkey's getting in position for Shrek to tabletop him, push him over Donkey. He lends good support, I think, in much the same way that Mike would, but I feel like Mike is more of the brains of the operation. So maybe he's more of go for the eyes, yelling stuff into Sully's ear.
Do you think that Sully and Mike will underestimate Donkey? Do you think that would?
I think if you see Donkey next to Shrek, it's hard not to, right?
Yeah.
I think it's fair.
Who
And
do I
Donkey
need
does
to
like to
fight?
run his mouth, so you just
Yeah.
hear him talking, and you're like, oh, what an idiot.
Yeah.
I think I think you're completely onto something with this here, because this is something in my head that I've been envisioning is since we talked about Sully using Mike as a weapon at some point, and then we brought up the little horns too, is there is absolutely going to be a moment where Sully, I think in a fit of annoyance with Mike,
catapult him.
with Mike trying to say stuff in his ear when he's right hook, left hook, right hook, and so he's like, let me do this, and he's you gotta kick him in the nuts, stuff like that. And it's he's gonna grab Mike and he's going to javelin Mike towards one of these guys with his little horns, and it's gonna miss. Shrek is gonna dodge, and he's gonna go right into the wall, and his horns are gonna stick right in the wall, and it's gonna be
Yeah.
where you know what I mean? It sticks
The
into
little demons in Hercules.
Yes, exactly like that. And then now Mike is taken out for a moment because he's stuck in the wall and probably knocked out, And then so now it's Shrek and Donkey.
Then, of course,
versus
Donkey's
Sully.
waiting there to give him a quick donkey kick. Boom.
Oh,
just to
yeah.
finish him
Yep,
off.
exactly. And that's what knocks him out. So now Mike is stuck in the wall.
So you're talking about
and
2-on-1.
knocked down. Correct.
Yeah.
And then now you have Shrek and Donkey versus
Sully.
Sully. And we talked about the teamwork that they displayed in the tag match that they did in the the wrestling ring in the first movie. We talked about their teamwork, their inadvertent ability to work as a team. And then we talked about, Donkey being the table behind Shrek or behind Sully. Damn, that's getting me the whole time. And Shrek pushing Sully over, tripping him, and then now it's.
I agree. I think I'm going to come out and say I think Mike is a non-factor
I think so.
in a way.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
Well, I mean, in University, he is like the strategy guy, right?
Correct.
Like
But he also kind of
gets
sucks at
into
strategy
stuff,
because
so-
remember they were like sneaking around the
library.
and it was like getting him nowhere.
Yeah.
And so that's when like Sully just was like moved on, and then they
Yeah.
had to completely
But then in the end, doesn't he like end up scaring all the kids at camp?
He does. With
through,
him and Sully.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't the kids at camp, it was the police officers.
Oh yeah. Like he had to like.
Because they had to figure out how to scare all the police officers enough to trigger the door from the outside so they could open up and get back through because the door was turned off. I just watched this movie. So.
I don't know why we didn't bring this up before, and I don't know why this just clicked, but Donkey is very cowardly. He scares really easy. So you think him going up against like a giant furry monster and like this weird eyeball?
But I mean, they live in a fantasy world.
Right, but he was still scared of like ghosts and like things that go bump in the night and stuff.
Listen.
He's scared of the dark.
The dude married and bear children with a dragon. I think he's...
Yeah, so the dragon takes care of all the scary stuff.
I mean, like.
It's like there's a spider in the kitchen.
Yeah.
If there was an option to run away, like then that might be a problem, but there isn't.
Yeah.
He's in this fight.
And he's in this fight with Shrek too. You know what
His
I mean?
best friend who he wants to defend.
Correct.
That is fair.
I feel like they have this like similar bonds, right? Both teams would go to great lengths for themselves or for the other person in their team.
Just it was a different way of it. Like, Mike and Sully were a chosen bond, and Shrek and Donkey were forced
by Donkey.
Yeah, by Donkey. Yeah. It's an extrovert adopting an introvert. And
Yeah, exactly.
So my final thought before we kind of wrap it up, at least for me, is when you think Sully, you think brute strength.
Yes.
Big dude, like 8 feet, 800 pounds or whatever. However, I think it's the opposite, in my opinion. I think Shrek and Donkey are the brute force guys.
Yes.
Sully is actually a really good tactician when it comes to scaring. I'm sure that could translate over into fighting in a way. So not only does he have the brute strength going for him, he has the tactician mindset that we talked about, last fight with Thanos.
I think Shrek more so has it than Sully does, because we talked about the scene.
Shrek does, but Donkey
does not.
I'm saying with the combined tactician mindset of Mike and Sully.
Oh, gotcha. I
kind of-
like the teamwork ability
kind
and being
of
able to
gives them that edge.
Shrek and Donkey definitely are a stumble through it. Kind
Yeah.
of.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
that's what I'm saying. They're more like the brute strength. They'll just, Shrek will just start swinging and knock everything out of the way.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
Sully
he'll
will too.
figure it out as he goes, but he's not going to think ahead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of in that department. I think Sully and Mike have the upper hand.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents. Do you guys have any last thoughts before we?
I had one. It's not super relevant, but it was kind of like a funny observation that I had, which is we talked about the toxic farts, right?
Oh, I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
and it hasn't really come up into the
Toxic
play
farts,
yet.
yeah.
But
Oh,
I did realize that in like Monsters Inc., they established that the monsters like bad smells.
That's true.
All of
Remember
their- all of their
the
odorants?
deodorant. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like
Do you want
smell like garbage
yeah.
or wet dog. So, I mean, like not to bring it up and then be like, oh, it's not relevant, but I thought that was like a funny parallel. It's
Yeah.
like he couldn't probably paralyze.
Like Shrek is gonna fart, and
They're gonna be like,
Yeah,
oh,
because
that's
we
nice.
talked about the toxic parts in the beginning as if it was going to be a factor,
and
and now we're
Mike
ruling
is
it out.
probably gonna be like, you smell that? Sully, let's date night. And then like after they smell Shrek's fart, and then he's not gonna know what to do because
Wake up and smell the trash.
yeah. So wow, I never thought about that.
So before we move into round 4, which I'm going to call Final Judgment, I think that's
I
think that's a pay-per-view event, actually, isn't it?
I think it
No,
used
Judgment
to
Day.
be.
Anyway, we're going to check in with Mr. Metatron and get his thoughts on the fight. Mr. Metatron, how do you feel about this fight so far?
It looks like all that time spent at the home gym and out on the scare floor working together is really paying off for the Monsters Inc. team here. Sully picks up Mike and starts using him as a weapon. Now that's the kind of mic drop I can get behind. Shrek famously said that ogres are like onions. They have layers. Well, this is one layer of an ogre I wish I would have never seen. Better watch out for Donkey in this match. He's not afraid of any monsters.
Well, we have heard from Mr. Metatron, and now it's time to move into Final Judgment, round 4. Let's do it. Well, boys, we've heard the argument. We've had the
We
discussion.
made the arguments, yeah.
Yeah. Everybody at home has heard the argument,
Yeah.
so you guys can make your decisions based off that, unless you came in with, such and such is already going to win. But I tried to come in with an open mind.
I did too.
I
Closed as a freaking. Never mind.
Oh,
closed as a door, which
Closed
both
as-
of them will rip
can
down.
Also be open.
I was a little torn because, like I said, we made some really good arguments for both as far as brute strength, as far as intelligence and stuff like that. However, I think you guys brought up a really good point about teamwork. And they both have great teamwork to a degree.
I was like, over which one? Yeah.
They both have great teamwork in their own ways, right? However, I think Shrek and Donkey have a little bit more chemistry in the sense that they have teamwork with luck, with brute strength. Like they have everything you need minus intelligence. And when it's a fight like this, especially if we determine Mike is going to be kind of a non-factor, I think that they have enough of the equation to get the victory. So that is where I'm going with that. Carson?
I did not come in with any idea who I was going to pick. I was like, but honestly, I feel like for the same reasons, I'm picking the other team. It's like I see
Interesting turn of events.
I know.
Mike and Sully are the clearly better team. I feel like when Shrek and Donkey have a victory, it's not because they work together well. It's kind of in spite of the fact that they work together poorly. Whereas Mike and Sully, they have made a career out of working together, and I don't think they need that much communication. Whereas like to accomplish something, whereas I feel like if Shrek wanted Donkey to do something, he'd have to sit him down and explain, like, I want you to get behind his knees so that I can tabletop him. And Donkey's gonna be like, what?
Still not understand.
So whereas
We
I
don't
feel
have
like
any tables here.
so I don't know. I feel like even though he's not a great physical presence, Mike isn't completely useless, and I think that him and sort of Sully's evolutionary advantages of claws and teeth. And does Sully have horns? I thought
Yes.
he
He does.
So
He
yeah,
has small horns. They're
Yeah.
not huge.
Yeah, they're big enough to potentially
like,
impale or
yeah.
something. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Which we didn't get a chance to get much on the horns, but
But yeah, you mess with the Sully, you get the horns.
oh Jesus.
Is that why you asked that? So you could make that joke?
Setting up his own joke with clarification.
So, he does have horns, right? Right. I
Dude,
need to know.
Josh and I both pulled up like pictures just to confirm because
I was like, shit, if I tell you he has horns and then he does it, I'm going to feel real stupid.
yeah.
All right.
Oh, boys. I hate being in this position, but
Welcome to the fence.
Here we
I love
are. I
putting
know.
you there.
Here we are. God, this was interesting for me. I came in with kind of an idea of who I thought was going to win this, and I was torn through most of the match. But I've been brought back around to my original decision, and for a very unlikely reason, though, because I think I think I'm on Team Shrek and Donkey because of Donkey and Mike, which is not the reason why I think I would end up picking, just because of like the fact that we talked about how Mike is such a non-factor in terms of combat versus Donkey legitimately is like
a physical threat.
a physical threat,
Yeah.
and their ability to be able to work together
Yeah.
for a positive outcome despite what happens. And they also do kind of have in a complete disagreement to what you said, like they kind of have like an unspoken like teamwork in a way where it's like I think Donkey could go behind Sully's legs and Shrek would recognize that. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of unspoken where they're stumbling through it together.
Yeah.
I wanted to just make a remark about that because I know you have more experience with Shrek than we do, having watched all 4 of the movies. But
You're just going to keep bringing that up.
no,
huh?
well, you talk about the only one that I'm privy to is like the night fight, and that is right when they met, and they already had like that fighting chemistry. So
Yeah.
not
Exactly.
to drive the nail in the coffin, but
Yeah. But yeah, I'm on Team Shrek and
I can see
Donkey.
that. I can see that.
Yeah.
It's a close
It's
thing.
tough, dude.
It's a close thing.
During
Yeah,
the
it
actual
is.
fight when
It
we were
is.
talking about it a lot more, I was like, man, maybe there is something to like this, Sully and Mike thing. But no, I don't know. I brought myself back around.
Not for nothing, but I did see this video about how like a horse or like a donkey, their backwards kicking power is like one of the most overpowered like defense against predators things because the ability to injure while running away is something that doesn't really exist.
That's huge. I
in
never
other-
thought about that. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Most
Imagine being able to like kick in and
having
just
antlers or
Take off,
horns or
because
anything like
you're going
that.
head on.
You have
into
to
battle.
go towards them.
Whereas like
You could
donkeys and horses are such little
break
like
a jaw and
Yeah.
then run.
and you talk about Mike, he has like a 80% chance to hit his eye.
yeah, he's 80% eye. Yeah, I mean,
So, I mean,
He's like all weakness, all vulnerable.
it's like, so this is the second episode where we talked about going for the eyes.
oh god, yeah,
Or eye.
yeah.
But yes, Carson, so welcome to a little thing we like to call the Hill, which is what you'll be dying on tonight with your choice. Sure.
Well, I stand by it.
And that's all that matters.
I don't regret my
Here's your
decision.
complimentary white flag.
Wipe my ass with it.
While Carson wipes, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up for tonight. Great fight, guys. I think I agree. I think it could have gone either way, and I think I was kind of like on both sides at one point. Like I was kind of zigzagging back and forth between. I was like, well, you make up a good point. But I think ultimately we make our decisions and we stand by them, and that's where we're at. So
The internet can tell us why we're wrong.
now is the time where we want you guys to tell us who you think would win between Shrek and Donkey and Sully and Mike from Monsters Inc.
I just want to give a shout out too, because this is I know I mentioned it earlier in the episode, but this is a fan suggested fight. So just know out there that we're listening. We want to hear your suggestions and we want to talk about it because this was probably one of the most fun ones we've done in a little while. So
This was great, yeah. But as always, head over to the CFN Fan Stand group where we'll be putting up a poll and a picture of the fight so you can start your own fights in the comments. And we look forward to hearing from you. But that's going to do it for this episode of CFN Recharged. For Jim, Carson, Wade, and myself, of course, we will see you in the next episode. And remember, let your characters do the fighting for you. See ya.
bye, guys.
Aye.
Want more fights? Follow us on social media, Instagram and Twitter @CharacterFight and Character Fight Night on Facebook. Use hashtag #FollowTheFight on all social media platforms. Want more action? Join the Character Fight Night Fan Stand Facebook group, where we post polls and have discussions on all fights.